All right, so welcome to our spinal cord injury lunch and learn. We have two wonderful certified therapeutic recreation specialists in the Shepherd Center in Atlanta, Georgia. So I'll have them kind of introduce their topic and what they're going to be speaking about. This will be recorded, so we will show you the link at a later date if you want to watch it or share with friends. Let me let everybody in and we'll get started.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shannon Foster Ali, but I go by Shannon Ali. I'm a lead recreation therapist at Shepherd in our spinal cord injury day program rehab unit. I've been at Shepherd for 14 and a half years. My two primary teams I work with are adolescents, so any patients ages 12 to 21, and then your adult all the way up to 99. And I also am responsible for the internship program here at Shepherd. So I manage students throughout the year from all over the United States. Yeah, I think that's a good start for me.
I'm Val. I am also a recreational therapist in the spinal cord injury day program. And I work with our young adult population, so like 18 to 28. And then I also work with any patient that comes down that has a brain injury and a spinal cord injury. I have been here for a little over 4 years, but before that I was a rec therapist in New York for about 5. So yeah, welcome to our presentation. We are going to talk about quick and creative adaptations for everyday life. Primarily for those with spinal cord injuries. We're going to talk about everything from a night out with family and friends to shopping to days on the water and everything in between.
If you guys have any questions throughout, please feel free to raise the hand or tell us. We're super informal. We want you guys to get the most out of this as possible. So please feel free to interrupt us at any time. So nights out on the town. So one of the reasons why we really love to do different outings around the city of Atlanta is because we like to show people, no matter kind of what city they're from, or even if they travel, that you can typically do anything that's out there with just a few accommodations. So we actually go to the Ferris wheel about twice a year, where we take sometimes up to 12 to 15 patients. One of the accommodations a lot of people don't know about a lot of these Ferris wheels is that, they have 2 of the cars that are wheelchair accessible, which means that you can get in there in your power chair, and they have a ramp that they can put onto the entryway that they can put across, and then you can help, disengage your chair, and somebody can help you push up in there with at least one caregiver in there. So if you wanted to do just a night out with your friends or a date night, this would be a great way. If you are in a manual chair, we didn't do any accommodations. All we did was ask them to bring the carts down to where we could pull up on that ramp part, and then we put their front wheel casters inside the car with their back wheels right there, lock their brakes down, and we just used a long sliding board to hop over from the wheelchair to the seat. Or if you're really strong enough to get all the way to the edge, to do a quick little pop over depression transfer or something like that. We do suggest that if you are transferring onto any of those benches, that you even put your cushion under there or some type of cushion to make sure you're protecting your skin, because they're really, really hard benches. So that's the Ferris wheel for a night out on the town. Top golf. I don't know if you guys have top golf out there, but we love top golf. It doesn't take a lot of accommodations. Typically what we ask for when we go on any outings to top golf is the wheelchair accessible mats, which make the mat a little bit shorter, so that way you don't have to kind of bump up on that grass or anything like that. It's just a level playing field, and then you can have the mat on either the left or right side, depending on if you're left or right-handed for your swing. So that's really the only accommodation we do. Sometimes we'll ask to be on the lowest level possible, that way again for safety precautions, because you're not close to the edge to go into the net or anything, but you're just at the level ground. So those are the only accommodations that we ask for at Topgolf. We also sometimes will ask for the kid golf clubs. That way they're shorter, so they're not so long if you are in a manual chair. So that's another accommodation. We just, ask for the kids golf clubs. And then if you have any type of upper extremity impairments or hand impairments, we typically use different things like grasping cups, active hands, ACE bandages, the strong arm that you can also use for fishing, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But we use any of those to help, as you can see in that last picture, help use that club and hold that club so that you can swing if you don't have any hand or finger function. Bowling is great. It's a great way. It's a great night out with family or friends. Really, most bowling alleys are all wheelchair accessible, so you can get in there. Typically, the only thing that we do accommodations for is asking for one of those ramps that most bowling alleys have, that are the metal ramp that you can use to sit in front of you and then have somebody put the ball on for you and you can roll it down. Or it's just really wheelchair positioning if you are able to actually hold the ball and roll it down, just angling your chair. If you do have some hand function, but maybe just Tino and not finger function, the snap handle ball that's up at the top, it's a great adaptive bowling ball that you can get where the whole handle lifts. You can put your hand in there, and then once you roll and release, the handle goes back into the ball and it rolls down the lane. So those are the only other accommodations we would suggest for bowling. Being out and about for spectator sports. So this was one of our Atlanta United soccer games at our Mercedes-Benz football stadium here in Atlanta. As you can see, we have really great seats. So those are the accessible seats that you can just request. However you purchase your tickets, you typically can get, your seat and then a companion seat. So the companion seats, as you can see, were just standard chairs put up, and then we had that whole area to ourselves. But they have different seating around the stadium based off, the price range that you want to purchase. So that's what it, for concerts, games, even for theaters and things like that, concerts, those are a great feature that a lot of people don't know. If you go on Ticketmaster, you can typically click the wheelchair accessible symbol that they have on the website so that you can find the companion and tickets, the accessible seating across the stadium as well. As far as what to look for, so if you even go onto that website of, let's say, that stadium, typically if you type in accessibility or wheelchair accessibility, a lot of times they have a whole section designated on their websites to the different areas of the stadium or the arena. So this was actually, I think, for our baseball stadium. So it has everything from accessible parking, seating, dietary restrictions, all the way to if you just need a quiet room for any reason. So that is a great way to just look for different resources that way, find out where the best parking places are going to be, if they have accessible transportation for you to get to the parking lot to the stadium, if it's a pretty far distance, which most stadiums and things do if they have parking. So just kind of knowing what to look for and what to ask for and what kind of accommodations will work best for you, because everyone needs something different depending on their level of injury.
So these are some examples, because most of the time when you go on a night out, you are probably going to eat at some point. And so these are just some examples of adaptations that we found that people can use while they're eating. One of them is the burger buddies that are on the far left. Those ones we just found on Amazon, and they're not really for any adaptations. They're just to help anybody, I guess, eat a hamburger. But we found they make it a little bit easier to keep everything together as somebody's trying to eat, and even if they don't have the dexterity to be able to hold on to each individual piece. And then the dining with dignity set, I feel like a lot of people have seen that as well. The fork and the spoon up at the top. Those ones are made with those rings so that somebody's fingers can slide through those and be able to hold the silverware when they lack dexterity. Another thing, most people forget those when they bring them somewhere. So the spoons examples, all three of those pictures are different examples of how you can either thread a spoon through somebody's fingers in order to help them eat, but then also just using a rubber band to wrap around somebody's hand or fingers just to kind of hold the spoon in place. And that can go with like regular silverware, plastic silverware, anything like that. And then at the top, you'll see that we have chopsticks up there that were ones also, again, that we found online on Amazon just to kind of help somebody hold and learn how to use chopsticks. But really, we found that it's easier for those people who have less dexterity and still want to use chopsticks, like the gentleman in the video that we're about to play. He was originally from China and used these every day at home. And so it was a really big goal for him to be able to use these when he went out to eat with family and friends. So, yeah.
Hey, Shannon and Val, can we ask a question real fast?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is Jack. I tried to get your attention in the previous.
Oh, sorry.
But could you elaborate a little bit more on the golf club? Because golfing is a big sport here, and I tried it years ago, but I dropped out because I couldn't hold the club. And so
Okay.
it caught my attention with the new kind of club you were mentioning.
Okay, so we'll show you some of the grasping clubs and stuff that we use for golf. We can definitely show you in a couple more slides. So we just use basic golf clubs, but at like Topgolf, we'll use a kids club. Sometimes that's easier for people to be able to manage. It's just a kids club because it's shorter. But if you don't have the finger dexterity or hand dexterity to grip, then we'll talk about some of those different adaptive devices in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
And we also have Topgolf in Reno. It's just virtual. So it's like those booths that you can roll into. I think there's like an edge lip.
Okay.
Also use the mats. That was
Okay. Yeah, where you hit it and it tells you the distance and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
So that's an option too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've actually been to one of those. One of our golf courses here has those. So when we take our guys out to the driving range out there instead of Topgolf, if it rains, obviously we don't want to be outside raining. So they'll bring us inside and they have one of those too. And so we've set somebody up with one of those in like a para-golfer in the room, trying out those type of things too.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, so kind of to keep along on the going out to eat portion, a lot of times what you'll see, especially pictured in that top picture, is that somebody will try and get their power chair underneath the table and it doesn't quite fit, whether it's the legs at the bottom of the table or just the height in general. So at the bottom left, as you can tell, we grabbed a tray. Somebody grabbed a tray and just sat their food on a tray, like asked for a lunch tray, asked for a dish tray, or they have a slide board there and they put their sliding board across their armrest of their power chair and then use that kind of as a tray to be able to hold their food in place, so that they could still be at the table with their family and like not have to sit like sideways to it all. But that is also still an option. And then at the right-hand side, some restaurants will be nice enough to let you use dish trays and put those underneath the table to raise up the table if it's more of an aspect of getting under it for height. And then we just remove the foot plate or the leg rest on the chair out so that that person could get closer and just sat at the corner of the table because that would reach out a little bit more as well. Again, so just some simple adaptations you can do to try and be able to sit at that table with your family.
So even if maybe you just need maybe like 2 inches or 3 inches, a lot of times if you can take your feet off of the foot plate, whether it's a manual or a power chair, that typically gives you about a couple more inches to have clearance too. So you don't necessarily have to lift it up. You can also just kind of lower it as low as possible or take your feet off the foot plates and do it that way as well.
Yeah, and if somebody's in a power chair and they have the elevating function on their chair too, where they can like change the height of their chair, sometimes we suggest sitting at high top tables because then they can just raise up to that level, which might make it a little bit easier versus trying to always go down. And then soda machines are wonderful, but there's not a lot of room in front of them unless you're at those freestyle Coke machines. Those are actually really great because there's an adaptive feature on them that allows a user to use arrow keys on the bottom of the machine closer to where somebody's sitting. And they can use that to control all the features up on the soda screen to fill up their cups. So outdoor and all terrain has always been difficult with manual chairs or power chairs, to be honest. So there's some different things that we show people a lot of. The one on the far left you'll see is our freewheel. That is an awesome piece of equipment. It comes and the person will just attach it to their foot plates and be able to, it'll lift up those caster wheels. They're smaller caster wheels in order for them to push around on different surfaces without feeling like they're going to get stuck. A lot of people also match those with what's called knobby tires, which are outdoor tires, and will switch out their tires because you don't want to always get mud all over your everyday tires to push around in. And then the freewheel actually can pop right back off, and it comes with a piece that hangs on the back of somebody's chair. So then that way you can hang it on your chair and just carry it around with you for whenever you need it.
People use it to go in soccer fields if they're going to watch their kids play soccer, or it's just if they want to be out hiking, sometimes at the beach.
If they like have gravel driveways, they like to use them to get up and down their gravel driveways, or just even in their backyard and around just different areas, especially if they have a lot of different terrain at their house. Walking dogs, anything really. It's pretty, once it gets set up too on your chair, that it just stays that way. So you never really have to worry about adjusting it.
Thank you. Sorry.
I got it. Another one is our track chair that we use. That is the one in the center. That one is really great for those real avid outdoors people. It looks like a mini tank and it kind of drives like one. And so you can use its power. So it kind of just functions like a power chair. And then it does vary in price range. It is more expensive than most of the outdoor equipment. But it also can change in the fact that you can get it where it has a standing feature to it. So you can elevate it to stand you up. A lot of our guys that like to hunt, they really like to use that because they have gun mounts on them too. So you can mount their gun on it and then stand themselves up and shoot at whatever target they're shooting at. And they have a sip and puff feature that allows somebody to drive it with a sip and puff. It's just got all different great things and it goes over like almost everything. And then the last one we suggest to people is the Freedom Grit Chair. It actually operates with cranks system, kind of. It has two chains. As you can tell, that gentleman is just kind of pushing those bars forward, and that is what helps propel it. And then it has little brakes on it too, so that you can sit it sideways and brake it. And it has two bigger wheels in the back with one smaller wheel in the front, kind of like a freewheel sort of situation, and then foot plates to hold somebody's foot on. Yeah.
So for reference, before we move on, we've got the freewheel for rent at the city of Reno. We also have the Grit Freedom Chair for rent at the city of Reno. There is a organization on the West Coast called davidchair.org. What? And they have, it's not yours. Davidchair.org has two different styles of that chair. Yeah. And then people use it, like you're saying, for adaptations to put like a rifle on it or a bow and arrow on it. So yeah, we've got opportunities over here for you guys to get in those chairs.
You can get a much cheaper gas powered version of that tank chair, like $3,000.
Gas powered?
Just so you know, like a third the price.
Yeah, they're expensive.
Or $20,000.
All right, thanks, sorry for the interruption, I just thought it was so pertinent.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So we're gonna talk about shopping, helpful tips and tricks for a day out of shopping. So I don't know if you have any women in the building, but we love to go get our nails done. So we just talk about safety precautions as far as if you wanted to transfer, you know, into the pedicure chair, like what precautions to look for, how you're gonna transfer, how to communicate your needs or verbalize what you need from the person who's going to actually be doing your nails or toenails. Making sure first, you know, that the water's not too hot. So, you know, making sure that you or your family member or whoever's with you maybe actually checks that water, you know, on your wrist, you know, for a good little minute to make sure it's not too hot. So making sure, you know, water temperature. If you're on any type of medications that may cause you to have some, you know, blood thinning medications and things like that, then you want to make sure that they don't maybe cut your cuticles and things like that, because of those issues, or you know, usually use this like a file and things like that. And just talk about things you need, you know, when you're sitting up on the chair, do you need to make sure you need to put a, you know, a cushion down to protect your skin if you're going to be sitting for a while, you know, because of sensation. And just being able to verbalize anything that you may need, whether you have sensitivity issues in your hands, whether or not you have spasms, you know, that you might kick them or something like that. So making sure you're just verbalizing different things when you're out and about, and making sure they also feel comfortable as well with servicing you. The Magic Wallet, this is just an as seen on TV. It's about $8 to $10, but we've used this for years. It's really lightweight and great. So for anyone who maybe has some dexterity issues, it's just, you can put your driver's license in here, so you can always have that where it's easily to be shown. You can put cash over here, and I think we have a video coming up what it looks like. And then this is another wallet. It's just called like a minimalist wallet, and we've modified it just a little bit, but it's pretty much modified. So if you have any finger and function impairments, we put a key ring around that tab where it lifts up. You can put cards in here and push up with your thumb. And this has a money clip, and then we'll talk about credit cards in a second. So if you, again, have some finger impairments and you can't hold that credit card to insert in the machine, a lot of times what we do, I actually have it on my work credit card to use with patients on any money management sessions, both of us do. We have punched a hole with a hole puncher, put an extra like large key ring in there, and we can have a person use it with their thumb or put it between their fingers, put on the index finger or what have you, so they can insert that card into any machine or tap it and have control of their credit card and to have more independence. Some of our ladies or guys will use these little wrenches to put onto the credit card, especially if they're getting gas and things like that, so that they can insert into the pump and be able to pull it back out, because sometimes that's the harder part for them to be able to do, but they can grip the little wrenches to do that. Apple Pay, Google Pay, Everything Pay is another great credit card adaptation for you to just use on your phone. So here's a video of someone doing some money management with a bag and one of the wallets.
Another thing, just a quick note too, if you're punching a hole in a credit card,
Oh, yeah.
please don't do it on the chip or the magnetic strip, because then it would render your card useless.
Deactivated.
Yeah.
So he has the Sherman wallet.
Oop. That was quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Different bags. So we have a ton of different wheelchair bags, or put on your walker or rollators or whatever you may have, whether or not you put it on the side of your wheelchair, if it's a power chair, underneath the front of your manual wheelchair, underneath your chair. JanSport also has a new adaptive bag line that has been great. We've been seeing a lot of patients purchasing those type of bags as well. So they've been really great. Other adaptations we may do is just make bigger loops or key rings onto zippers to make it easier for someone to slide that across if they may have some finger or hand impairments.
Some other things, we talk to people about our adaptive clothing, and we're not talking about the cool ones that you see that have Velcro and everything, but these ones, JCPenney and Tommy Hilfiger actually have a wonderful line of adaptive clothing for seated clothing wear. Also for some of our women, we suggest maternity clothing, especially in the pants, because it's a little bit easier and stretchier, so it makes it easier to get on and off when needed. Some other adaptations with clothing are that they have done is like where if it's a button-up shirt and you're having difficulty with buttons, a lot of times it's magnets behind them. So while it still looks like your standard button-up shirt, it's actually magnets which help. The pants have loops attached to them as well to help with pulling up your pants, and most of the time they're on the inside, so nobody will see them. Same thing with zippers and flies and things like that, is that they're going to have magnets on them, or possibly Velcro, to help. And then shirt necklines will have, the shoulders will have a little bit more of a Velcro to be able to have a little bit more room to be able to get this clothing on.
They also have different stock options that have different holes so people can pull them up using their thumbs. They have a rain poncho that we love, that we purchased from JCPenney's. It's like it's called a wheelchair rain poncho. It's longer in the front, so it covers your legs if you're in a chair, and it's shorter in the back, so it's not, you know, just dragging or just getting in the way. It has Velcro along the sleeve, so if you need to push your chair, you can put your hands through there and push it and still be totally covered. It's really warm, so if it's a cold, rainy kind of day, it's really warm. And it was only about $20 from JCPenney's. Yeah,
it retailed at about $120, but on JCPenney it was only like $20.
Yeah.
So it was a really great find.
Yeah. So we use that on a lot of outings with our patients to make sure they know, hey, it's gonna rain. Like, how can you, get through it?
We've also showed like adaptive underwear, because that's another thing most people don't want to wear, like Depends or something like that. They want to get back into their underwear or regular underwear, so we show them that too. They have Velcro on the side and things like that to help with ease of access. Another thing we talk about is adaptive shoes, because everybody needs some cool sneakers. So at the top, those are the Nike Fly E's that are at the top left. Those ones are great because they have zero tying. They don't have Velcro or anything like that. You just slip your foot into it, and as the weight of your heel drops, the shoe actually pops around your foot. Kiziks are another brand that are down at the bottom left. Those ones are really great. They are made so that somebody could just slide their foot in and step in and never have to untie them, but they still have shoelace like bungees on the front. I think those are Skechers in the middle. Has also made something similar to that as well, where you can just kind of slide your foot in. You have Adidas, those ones are really great. I think the note on that one is that they have the loops on the tongue part and on the heel, and that allows somebody to be able to get their thumb or a finger in there to kind of help with the pulling up over their foot. And then Reebok has one where it still has laces, it just unzips on the side to make the shoe a little bit wider to be able to fit your foot inside of. And
So days out in the water, days out in the lake. We do a ton of camps and outdoor camps and things like that on the water every year, from jet skiing to kayaking to water ski, tubing. So we're just going to talk through just kind of different transfers when you're out and about, if you wanted to do more of an advanced transfer. So in the first top picture, if you have a manual chair, you can definitely get it in the water as close as possible. Have somebody typically behind to hold, and then depends on your level. The first thing you want to do is get that first leg up over the seat. And then if you need somebody to help get your hips to lift you, 2-man, or if you can pop over there and pull yourself over or whatever, that's typically how we would transfer someone over. So making sure you're doing those stretches, because you need to be a little flexible for some of these transfers. And then just depending on your level of injury, it depends on if you're going to drive, if you have dexterity in your hands or your trunk, if you're going to drive, or if you need to do a sandwich where it's going to be 2 people, they're going to sandwich you in between them while you're riding.
That's the
Another one that everybody likes to do on the water that we mentioned is kayaking. I personally love kayaking. There's different grips and adaptations. There's a company called Creating Abilities, who does a bunch of kayak adaptations, including adaptations to the kayak itself. They do grip adaptations, so if somebody can kind of hold their hand around a paddle, but just maybe need that extra support across their knuckles to hold their hand onto it, that is the grip on your top left. If somebody has zero grip in their hands, they have the wrist cuffs that you can put on. And what's great about those is that you'll actually put them on, and then the wrist will come out. And then so as they're paddling, they don't have to hold on to the paddle at all. But if they were to fall out of the kayak, it's easy release where they just bring their hands back into the middle, and those wrists will pop out, because the number one thing with kayaking is you definitely do not want to be duct taped or strapped into any part of it in case that boat flips. In the middle picture, you can see that's an adaptive T-bar for kayaking, and so that would sit in the by somebody's legs. And then it allows, either you can angle it so that one's down in the water, or it actually, so if somebody only has one arm to use while kayaking or one hand, they can kind of rotate them side to side as they paddle. And then the outriggers on either side of the kayak help with just more of stabilization. So if somebody's having a little bit of issue with stabilizing themselves in the kayak, because those can get a little tippy or feel like they're getting tippy, those outriggers there will help a lot, and can also be used if somebody needs like maybe a little power boost. Somebody else with a kayak come up behind them and kind of give them a push. The seating in a kayak as well, Creative Abilities has an adaptive seat. Not everybody needs it, but it does raise up higher in the back. And there's two different levels of laterals that can be placed in there. There's one that can be placed by their hips and one that can be placed right underneath somebody's armpits. If they needed the extra support, and then also leaning that seat back a little bit while somebody's paddling further back than what they think, because as you paddle, you'll have that resistance from the water, which will bring most people forward if they don't have core control. So sitting that seat back just a little bit will also help. By the time they pull themselves up, they maybe are at that perfect height, and then they can go back down. One thing you need to be careful of too is the footrests on the inside of the kayak. If you're going to use them, wonderful. If not, padding those off so that you don't have skin issues, and making sure that you're padding off with a towel or foam or something underneath your heels if you can't feel them for skin reasons, and your knees and your legs, and any sharp parts off of that kayak, because sometimes kayaks can have little sharp edges. Making sure you're kind of padding those off too. Sometimes you can use a pool noodle around where somebody is sitting to help pad off, and just kind of duct tape that there, because that's okay if it stays. And then the cushion, some kayakers, it's called sweet cheeks. Kayakers use it, like kayakers who paddle for super long distances use it as well, but it's made out of these little memory foam beads that you would just blow up and then let it sit and blow up again. And the more times you do that, it maps to you to help relieve that pressure across as you're sitting in the kayak. Here's some adaptations for fishing. So these are kind of the same adaptations we're using for that Top Golf and for holding golf clubs. The differences here, so I don't even know what he calls that. It's like a strong arm that you can find online. This just happens to be a different type of product. That's a handy hands, we think. It's one of our former peers, or one of our peer supporters. He started this, but basically that part will strap to your wrist instead of just your hand. It'll strap all the way around your wrist to hold the pole. And then you can tell he has that cuff on his right hand, which is handy accessories. That's what it's called. The cuff that's on his right hand is there to help Velcro onto that adaptive built-up reel right there. That's Velcro, and so he can just Velcro his hand to that reel and then be able to reel in a fish. And then, but yeah, so just different adaptations, especially if you lack that dexterity and being able to hold on to that teeny tiny little piece on the reel.
So for beach access, there's Moby Mats at tons of beaches now across the United States. It just kind of depends on, you know, where it's located and what beaches have invested more money for wheelchair accessibility. But a lot of times you can find a Moby Mats located at most public beaches. And then also, a lot of people don't know, but there's typically beach wheelchairs that are free to rent at most public beaches as well. What I typically tell people to do is just Google free beach wheelchairs at, for instance, Destin, Florida Beach. And typically, you can find them at fire departments, typically have them in that city, or even like the lifeguard stations or things like that, where you can just go, leave your ID for the day, have that beach wheelchair, and be able to get on the beach, you know, go into the water. Some of them float. Some of them are power chair, beach chairs. But a lot of them are more dependent because someone's gonna have to push you, but you could be out on the beach and hang out with your family and things like that. So those are just some accommodations for the beach.
Yeah, Harbor has one. You can.
Zephyr too. And we do.
Another great accommodation or resource is boating. A ton of our patients love to boat. So this is one of our former patients, peer supporters, who has a pontoon boat that he just made he cut the door a little wider and made a little ramp so he could get on, and everything else he can drive. He's actually, I think around a C7 level of injury, but a great addition that you could use if you were to get out your chair and wanted to you know, just sit in the seats or drive in the seat or what have you. It's a J protector cushion. It's just kind of similar to your wheelchair cushion, but it actually straps around your waist and then straps around each leg. So that way, if you were transferring from, you know, your chair to the boat chair and it didn't have any type of cushion, or it was super hot because it's been in the sun, you're protecting your skin at the same time. So you're always having that cushion that's going to come along with you. A lot of people use it for transferring onto the ground to work on cars, working in the garden, outside hunting, sitting in the blinds and things like that they do, or if they transfer to something different. So a lot of people use this for just different reasons.
I know too that the J protector comes with a cover on the cushion itself, and I know some people take that off and then we'll just, especially if they're going to be by water, and they'll kind of just use it without the cover on it. So if it gets wet, you can just dry it off pretty easily, so you're not sitting on a wet cushion or anything like that as well. Scuba is another thing. I'm a little biased because I love it.
Has equipment that can be adapted, which is also the same for scuba diving.
Oh, sorry, that's my voice. It's not supposed to be there. Click on that speaker. Yeah, and just mute it or pause it. Okay, so scuba diving is super awesome. One thing that makes it really difficult to access is putting on those wetsuits. Are like super hard for anybody, regardless of abilities. And so these dive skins that are over on the left, those make it a little bit easier to slide on and off wetsuits over those. And then depending on the water temp, some people can also just use them. Another thing is the webbed gloves in the middle. Those ones make it really easy for somebody to get through the water and swim, especially if you don't have fins or anything on your feet to help propel. That will help you kind of get a little bit more power while swimming. Purge masks are another adaptation that some scuba divers use, because it's a mask that will actually purge for itself, so you don't have to lift it off if you don't have the dexterity to lift. And then dive boots obviously are really important to have to protect for skin as well while you're diving, along with neoprene straps that can be attached to back of masks. So whether you're scuba diving or snorkeling, those make it a lot easier to put on and off a mask without also pulling out all of your hair. And then the dry snorkel on the far right is a really good one too, because if you were like in waves or at a lake and there's waves and things like that, the water would not splash into your air tube. So if you're breathing out of it, it'll stop it from going in, but still allow you to breathe out. which is really helpful. Oh, hey. The Handicap Scuba Association is a great place and resource for anybody who does want to get certified in diving. They were founded at the same time as PADI and NAUI, which are the big certification boards. And they will help anybody with a disability be able to enjoy the sport of scuba diving. And they go through a classification, you go through tests and written exams and stuff like that. And a lot of it is just to make sure that you're safe while you're doing it. It's not to try and disqualify anybody from doing it. And it will match, it'll help somebody figure out what exactly they need and then help open them up to the community of diving and if they need dive buddies and things like that. So they're a great resource. They also, on their website, you can find an instructor. So if somebody is really interested in finding an instructor, you can look up as an instructor on their website. Obviously, you want to make sure that they're looking for somebody who's active and teaching and not just sustaining their license.
So everything in between, because we didn't know where to put some of this stuff at. So in the kitchen, a lot of these are just quick, as seen on TV adaptations. So we have their little egg cracker. We just went on Amazon and purchased, where if you don't have the best grip or just need, maybe you can only use one functioning hand or, just weak hands. This was a great option. You can just put your egg in there and it cracks your egg and it leaves the shell behind. This is just like a little oven grip where it just has like a little hook on here, and you can just, that can be used if you're, kind of far from the oven, you're trying to reach in, you don't want to reach, down, because we know it's hot surfaces, so being able to pull that oven rack out. This is for anyone who may need help to like turn a knob on top of a stove. And then this is just a basic cart. So a lot of times when we tell people if the table height is, harder for you to get to, if you can't get to your counter spaces to cut up, different foods and things like that. A lot of times the rolling carts have a great cutting surface. You can use that and then push it around the kitchen. So if you need to transport food from, counter to stove, or from counter to table, or if it's something hot you want to transport it, that way you're not risking the chance of you being burned or something like that, or doing anything to your skin. Another little quick adaptation is the shelving paper. You can typically buy from like Dollar Tree or Dollar General, and you can use that as different for slip guards. So if you need to place like a plate on the table, if your plate moves around a lot when you eat, you can use it for just to hold, your feet in place on your chair. You can use it for just any kind of, if you need something just to stick a little bit better, you can place that under something as well to help something not slide across. So that paper or that counter paper, it can be used for so many different things. It's, you can get it for typically like $1.25 for a roll of it. And then we have these grippers called quad grippers. So if you don't have the dexterity to pick things up, or the reacher to be able to use a reacher with like the pinch feature or something like that, this quad gripper you can put, they have different lengths based off of what you need. It goes across your like wrist and your arm, and you use your wrist and your forearm, your Tino, to be able to operate the quad grip to pick up things or reach for things. So a lot of guys and ladies will purchase those just for around the house to get things off the floor, or just when they go shopping or things like that at the grocery store.
The company's called Quad Tools, I think. So they have the quad reacher thing, and then they also have knives and other things like that for somebody to be able to cook.
In between, if you like to play cards, card holders, and then we just punched the holes on top of the cards. And then we just took something called a U-cuff with a right angle pocket, a regular pencil with a straight pen. And that's how we would use that to lift. If you, have finger function or just have, limited dexterity, again, we just use these basic little, rubber tips that people use for counting money or whatever in the office. We just purchased some of those, and then that helps a lot of times with just picking up items and things like that, give them just a little bit more of a surface to pick up. I think we had a video for that one. No. For pumping gas, so this is everything in between. This is actually if someone, again, has some dexterity issues for opening their gas tank, you can just keep this inside your car when you need to pump gas. If you have to pump gas yourself, you can go pop the thing, turn your gas tank to get that open, and then you can pump gas. But for a lot of times, if you haven't, or if you're not driving or never knew this, some people don't, as far as going to a gas station to get your gas pumped, we typically tell people to go to one of those larger gas stations that have more than 2 people working. So ones that maybe serve food and all that good stuff, they always have like 6 people working. Because those gas stations have enough people that you go to the gas pump, you can either call directly into that gas station or press the wheelchair symbol or the help button to call into the gas station and say, hey, I need someone to come pump my gas. It's a free service, but they just can't have one person working the store to leave the cash register to service you. So that's why you want to go to those big gas stations if you have any in your area. And that's a nationwide thing, because that's part of the ADA. So a lot of people don't know that they'll come pump your gas for you free of charge. I'm not free of charge. It's not additional charge. It's just you pay for your gas.
Trying to tell people they get free gas.
I know, I wish. Another thing that we like to tell people a lot of times is if you are traveling and something comes up where you have some type of bowel or bladder accident and need to clean up, truck stops are great for that. They have the wheelchair accessible stalls. They have showers. A lot of times they have benches inside. So even if you were traveling and didn't have any equipment, you could typically still, get cleaned up without any issues. Or if you were traveling and had your shower chair or, some type of bench or something like that, then you could use that as well. One thing is they typically keep these bathrooms locked because they don't want just anyone to use them, and they typically don't want the truckers to use them. So you usually have to go to like the customer service or the front counter to ask for the key or ask for the code to be able to get into those stalls. Another thing that we like to do as far as
Tips and tricks.
Oh.
These handy dandy gel toilet seat cushions.
I thought we got rid of that. Oh, I don't even know where the. Sorry.
Other things for bathrooms, I typically we would show these little gel cushion pads.
Tips and tricks.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Tips and tricks. These handy dandy gel toilet seat cushions
Sorry.
can be found on Amazon. They are great to use for extra padding for skin injury prevention and comfort. They are also easy to clean and reusable. They come with a plastic backing that can be removed and replaced so that they can stick to the toilet seat. These cushions are great for everyday use in the community or for travel as they are compact. In the far right picture, this is a great solution for women who have to cash in the community and may need to put their feet up on the toilet. Placing the toilet seat in a pillowcase allows for the person to place their feet on the toilet seat without the fear of their feet falling in. Another great trick are travel toiletry bags that fold out with a hook. These bags can be placed anywhere in the bathroom and are easy to reach and get supplies out of, so your client doesn't have to worry about placing items on dirty surfaces. Another great tip are period underwear. These can be worn for women on their menstrual cycles that can help alleviate the fear of leaking in their clothes. They can be found in most department stores or online.
Video games are definitely becoming more and more important to most people. And so there's just different adaptation. Xbox has made an adaptive controller that works with their device. It also has, there's a little USB adaptation that you can plug into a PlayStation. From what I've heard, it won't, to make the Xbox controller work with the PlayStation. It works on some things, but not all things. So really it's best to use with Xbox. But with that controller, you can plug in all different types of switches and buttons and joysticks or anything else like that. Like the quad tool is, or the quad stick is a very good adaptation for anybody that needs sip and puff function, because they can play all sorts of games, which is sipping and puffing and using and tapping buttons with their mouth. And then the lights touch buttons are on the left. Those are really great for anybody. They're super sensitive and super easy to push. So great. Sometimes some guys use those as their trigger buttons and they put them behind their heads or on their next to their knees or anything that you can kind of move or just lean back on them or things like that. So really anything. The picture on the top right is an adaptive controller that now can all be switched over to one hand. So if somebody only has one hand that they can use, as you can tell, the square and the X and the circle buttons, all that stuff can now be used with just the left hand along with the other joystick. So it just kind of moves everything over to the left. Virtual reality is becoming very big. We have a couple videos of those. Right there you can see this gentleman is using our active hands, grasping cuffs to hold on to those controllers since he doesn't have dexterity to hold on to them, and is able to play Fruit Ninja. And then this is another example of somebody, we actually upgraded our grips, and these were just 3D printed grips that we had put on there on the controllers themselves to help somebody hold on to them to be able to play. But yeah, so just different adaptations. I know the active hands and everything else can be used in the weight room. Some people use the Vive, and then other people use Oculus, I think is what you'd find more often than not. So yeah.
Does anyone have any questions that is either virtual or in the room for them?
This is Jack. I had a question. Can you talk about toothbrushes? I've seen the new U-shaped toothbrushes. Do you know anything about those?
No, I don't know anything about them, but what most toothbrushes, a lot of our people get would be like the electric toothbrush with a wider like handle, and a lot of times they'll use that in that grasping cuff or the hand billiards cuff or active hands or something like that.
Or there's new silicone little cuff things that just slide over the handle of the toothbrush, and then somebody can just kind of slide their hand through that, and it'll hold behind their knuckles, and it'll hold their hand to the toothbrush as well.
Or some people use a U cuff to hold their toothbrushes and things like that. So
Just so you know, there's a new style of toothbrush where it looks like a mouth guard, and you push a button and it through ultrasonic waves. And so I just wondered if you knew anything about those.
I have seen those advertised. I have not heard of anybody trying them, but I heard that through advertising, they sound like they're great. But I don't know of anybody who's actually tried those here. Maybe we should get some.
Well, on behalf of the people that will watch this later, especially at Renown at the hospital, this has been extremely informative. So thank you so much for spending your time with us this afternoon or almost evening. Yeah.
thank you for having us. Hi, Megan.
Hi, Megan.
Miss y'all, you're so great. Thank you for doing this.
You're welcome. I hope it helps. We're always here to help.